Good evening, everyone. It's just me and Dip tonight. We've put in a little extra work on our studio so far, and I think it's looking awesome. Personally, I think the best accessory is the cat. He will be with us this evening. If he is too disruptive, I might end up kicking him out. Hopefully, he's not. And hopefully, he enjoys his time here with us. Before we get started, I have a couple things I want to mention. First of all, we are still in the process of getting our super chats up and running. That's been a really long, fun process. I guess I have to do tax information now, which is very exciting. I love doing that. That's my favorite thing. So I need to get that set up. But until I do, let's have everybody go over to minds.com. And if you guys want to ask me a question, do so over there. I will try to answer some of those this evening. If I have an opportunity to do so. I love to see your chats. I love to see you all talking in the sideline. It's a little bit distracting to me because I find it so interesting sometimes. But by all means, go over to minds.com. Ask me whatever questions you have. There's a few different options. You can choose to entice me with some tokens or with a small amount of money. I'm not sure what dollar amount it starts at, but it's like some small amount of money. It does have to be a little bit just to get the ball rolling. So go over to minds.com if you're not familiar with that platform for sure. Check them out in the first place and go over to minds.com/sourpatchlids and we'll see how this works. All right, awesome. So tonight we have some interesting conversation because I was listening to Joe Biden's most recent speech so that you don't have to. You're very welcome. And CNN conveniently has a great article about it. We all know they're fair and balanced because they tell us this every day. So let's get right into it. I have a little bit of tinnitus today. I don't know what's going on, so bear with me if you have a hard time. I'm going to be working to be audible to everyone. Here we go. Let's start with this one. This is in the description. I have linked it there as I always try to do. Biden sends a stark warning about political violence ahead of midterms. Quote, "We can't take democracy for granted any longer." So as you guys probably all know, this is the same old boring, humdrum, run-of-the-mill Democrat talking point about democracy. Because for some reason, they really do think that we are a democracy. We're not. The Founding Fathers did not like democracy. They intentionally went out of their way to make us a constitutional republic, from my understanding, and that is exactly how we operate. A direct democracy is a terrible idea. It's basically the tyranny of the majority, and the minority gets left unheard. I don't like that at all, but this is what Biden is rolling with because he has nothing else. Going into midterms, I think he senses that he is at a loss. He's trying to drum up some interest from Democrats and try to get them engaged and out to vote. So let's read a little bit. President Joe Biden on Wednesday delivered a stark warning to Americans that the future of the nation's democracy could rest on next week's midterm elections. An urgent appeal coming 6 days before final ballots are cast in a contest the president framed in nearly existential terms. Not nearly, fully existential terms. Quote, "We can't take democracy for granted any longer," the president said from the Union Station in Washington, blocks from the U.S. Capitol. Oh, here we go, CNN, where a mob attempted to interrupt the certification of the 2020 election. It's the end of the world. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that their talking points of abortion, January 6th, and our democracy are not going to play well with people. I don't see this going over well. I don't think anyone cares about January 6th. I'm pretty sure that even the people, there's Dip, even the people who should care about abortion certainly don't, not when the economy is the way it is, and I don't think this is going to work. You may mark my words. If I'm wrong, feel free to let me know, and feel free to remind me that I was wrong, for sure. YouTube is trying to get me to insert an ad for you guys, but I'm not going to because I love you guys, and I'm not going to make you watch an ad for me. Let me show you Dip, though. This is great. We put the cat tree over in the corner, and he is fulfilling his role as the office accessory. So I'm very excited that he's here. He's the guest of honor this evening. Thankfully, he's not being too annoying. He does tend to get annoying because he likes attention and affection. All right, let's continue with this. It was a sharp message to Americans considering sitting out next week's congressional elections that the very future of the country was at stake. Biden suggested the preponderance of candidates for office at every level of government who have denied the results of the last presidential contest was red flashing warning signal for the country. This is terribly copy edited. It's not just my terrible reading skills. It was red flashing warning signal for the country. Okay, so before we unpack this completely, I just would like to remind everyone about 2000, where there was talk of, I believe it was Hanging Chads. Is that the year of the Hanging Chads? I remember that clearly, but I don't remember who was running for office then. And then, of course, we had 2016, when all of the Democrats refused to admit that that Trump was duly elected. And then there was 2018, when Karine Jean-Pierre came out and was talking about how Brian Kemp had stolen the election from Stacey Abrams. It's the end of the world. They do this consistently, and they make a big deal out of it. And last time Republicans had any kind of question about the voting process, they took a field trip to the Capitol and walked around inside the building. I am not having it with this January 6th. I don't care if that gets taken out of context. It did not make a difference to whether the election was certified or not. It was people who were upset and wanted their voices to be heard, and instead of going armed, as in, an actual insurrection, they wandered around. That was fine. One person died that day. That was Ashley Babbitt, and we know why she died. Then there were a few other officers who died of, horrible circumstances like suicide. Some died of stroke. There was another lady who died of a heart condition, I think, on that day. But we've all been over this. We know what it's all about. It's not a big deal. January 6th is a nothing burger. Everyone except the Democrats seem to know that, and for whatever reason, they refuse to let go of it. So this is Joe Biden talking about his democracy. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. When they say our democracy, they really do mean theirs. We have nothing to do with it. The other thing that he was talking about over the course of this speech was something called the big lie, which was the election denialism that they've been hating so much. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term, the big lie. This is up there with COVID denialism and environmental denialism. This is straight up Nazi propaganda. The big lie was literally the Nazi idea that Jews were in charge of all this terrible stuff going on. It's terrible. It's not a good look for a president of a country to be using it against 50% of the other people. I'm a little bit high-strung about this evening because this is so divisive and so, to me, so very dangerous looking, and I really hate to see it. So I'm really going to try to lay it out for you guys and show you where he's wrong. And it's not, and as I said previously, it's not that they actually have an issue with questioning elections, is that they have an issue when Republicans question elections. That's just the long and short of it. The other thing that he harped on endlessly was violence. He was constantly talking about how there's no need for violence, not a big deal. A mob is not the solution. Somebody pulled up this tweet for me, or somebody pulled this collage up for me, and I'm going to show you guys now. These are just a few of the scenes from the summer of 2020. So this wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for an actual collage of images of news article headlines from outlets talking about violence against right-wing people. I have a few of those. We're going to go over those too, but I just want to remind you of the summer of 2020, the summer of love. If you'll recall, some of this stuff was just unsettling to watch, and I don't know if you guys remember it, but there was a guy who got shot at one of these rallies. It was a huge mess. It was a really, really serious issue, and nobody now will talk about it. And for Joe Biden to honestly stand up there and say, we don't have any space for mobs, there's no room for, mob justice or whatever he was talking about. This kind of thing happened all summer long in 2020. And these mobs, I think that it was Ted Cruz who got Antifa fact-checked. I should have pulled that up before we started. That's over on my Instagram too, and you can see what PolitiFact rated him. They said it was inaccurate for him to tell The View that Antifa, they're like, first of all, Antifa is not even real. Okay, first of all, we all know that's just a joke. Antifa is a very clearly established, it is hard to define, and they love that. So this is very much the nature of postmodernism. They defy definition, and that's how they remain kind of nebulous. This is how they use the media to their advantage to show that they are just, probably just a figment of your imagination, right? It's not really a big deal. In fact, let me pull that up. So I'm going to go out here, and you guys can enjoy a moment with Dip resting in the corner, as he often does. If I can access Instagram from here, sometimes it gives me a hard time going from a computer, and it's going to make me want to log in. Oh, it is going to, isn't it? Great, that's awesome. Okay, so it only lets me see a few, and I don't think I can see the Ted Cruz one. Oh, No, I don't think I can log in now. I can never remember my passwords or anything like that. So we're just going to skip that one. But you guys got to check out how PolitiFact fact-checked Ted Cruz for saying that Antifa was rioting for months in a row. He was 100% correct. PolitiFact as much as admitted it, and they refused to say anything about what actually happened, obviously. So let's talk about ways that the right has been targeted by actual violence. If President Biden actually wanted to reduce the temperature in the country, he should be addressing stories like this. I don't know if you guys remember this, but let's see. I forget what month this was in. I think this was shortly after that decision was leaked from the Supreme Court. Armed man who wanted to kill Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh told the police he was upset over abortion and Uvalde. He literally told the police exactly why he was doing what he was doing. He was 100% politically motivated. A California man armed with a handgun, knife, pepper spray, and burglary tools was arrested near the Maryland home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Nicholas John Roski of Simi Valley told police he was there to kill Kavanaugh. Authorities said, "Holy cow, do you guys remember how terrifying this was? This is horrifying. Like, there was actual violence being threatened against one of our sitting Supreme Court justices." Kavanaugh's home, like those of other conservative Supreme Court justices, has been targeted by protesters since the leak of a majority draft opinion that would overturn Roe v. Wade. So if I recall correctly, this was actually breaking a law that says that you're not supposed to be picketing outside someone's personal residence if that someone happens to be a Supreme Court justice. But I remember nobody ever did anything about it. And then this happened and no one really seemed to care. And if anything, people thought it was, fully deserved, whatever. I forget what the left was saying at the time. I'm sure it was the same. And then we have this story. This man was released after running over a teenager he deemed a Republican extremist, according to the court documents. I don't remember what happened with this man. I think he ended up going back to jail. He did end up killing this teenager. And he said he thought the teen was part of a, quote, Republican extremist group that was out to get him. Admittedly, that does sound paranoid. I don't know the details of the personal altercation. This 41-year-old guy was charged with one felony count of vehicular manslaughter and one count of leaving the scene of an accident in the death of 18-year-old Kayler Ellingson on September 18th. This is recent. This is just in September. He was also charged with driving under the influence after he tested above the legal limit for alcohol, they said. It's McHenry, North Dakota, so a population of fewer than 40 people. Wow, that's crazy. So there's another instance of politically motivated violence by a left-wing person against a right-winger. And I'm not going to get into Paul Pelosi attack because there's way too much going on there and it seems like the details are changing rapidly. It seems like nothing is set in stone and there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. So I've been working up to this last story because it is incredibly infuriating, and my goal in life is to be a little ray of sunshine for you guys, but I cannot with this one. With Joe Biden's speech, he was playing the old grandpa. So if you'll remember, with his last speech, he was kind of showing us his more fiery side. He was showing us kind of like almost dictatorial, like the messaging was very dictatorial. He had the red, he had the Marines behind him. It was very dark and scary, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's dark Brandon," whatever. I forget what they were talking about, some nonsense like that. But in this one, he decided to try to take a different tack because he was trying to convince people to get out there and vote. He's really trying to counter this coming red wave. It's pretty clear to me that the administration can see what's coming. But of course, all he did was point fingers at the right and say, this is entirely their fault. All of the problems are coming from them. All the violence is coming from them. This is not something we can do. We don't respond with mobs when they literally do. We know this is true. It happened for an entire summer. Ted Cruz just talked about it on The View. Let me show you this story because this didn't get a lot of attention when it happened, and this actually just came out the other day, and I was seeing it when Mike Cernovich tweeted about it. This will probably get your blood boiling, so I'll try to leave on a nice note, but I'm going to have to figure out a way to spin this positively. Midterms horror as Republican candidates' daughters, 3 and 5, are almost killed after gunman opens fire at North Carolina home where Democrat rival filmed campaign ad with bullet landing close to where they slept. So, there's a lot in that headline. I appreciate the Daily Mail because they do pack a lot into their headlines, and I love that they have opening bullet points to kind of explain what everything happened here. So let's go through and talk about what actually happened. The shooting transpired on October 18th in Hickory at a home belonging to Republican Pat Harrigan's parents as he fights for an open seat in the famously liberal 14th Congressional District in a contentious race. Well, isn't that interesting? The congressional candidate's daughters, aged 3 and 5, were asleep in the bedroom directly above the room where the shooting occurred, with a bullet coming from a densely wooded area behind the house. So this was not a drive-by incident. This is clearly plotted, and this makes me so uncomfortable. We're going to go through and read the whole article and see what clues we can bring in from this. This is genuinely upsetting, and I don't know where this is going to go, and I really wish that anyone at the White House had addressed this in any capacity, but right now it just looks like they're ginning it up. Like they don't care. They look like they actually, well, we already know that they want neighbors to fight neighbors, and it looks like people are rising to the bait, which I really hate to see. So hopefully there's some bright spark in here. Let's get into it a little bit more. Harrigan, a firearms manufacturer and former Green Beret, has since come forward to assert he would not be intimidated by the shooting and that, quote, death threats aren't enough to knock this Green Beret off that mission, close quote. Because of these threats, the family said, which has spurred the ex-soldier to don bulletproof vests to campaign events, the two girls have been living with their grandparents for much of the campaign cycle. The kids have since been relocated out of state, while Harrigan, who is not at the residence, has revealed he owns a property near the home where the shooting occurred. No injuries were reported, thank goodness. His opponent, okay, this is where it gets really spicy and really made my blood boil. His opponent, Democrat Jeff Jackson, has been forced to pull an ad filmed outside his opponent's lakeside home, criticizing his ownership of a ritzy home in a neighborhood outside the confines of the district. The ad shows a man on a jet ski as a narrator tells listeners Harrigan, quote, made a fortune, close quote, off tragedies such as the Sandy Hook shooting and bought a lake house. I would like to let that sink in for a moment, because I don't know if you guys recall, but Alex Jones just received nearly $1 billion in damages for talking nonsense about the Sandy Hook shooting. It then shows an image of Harrigan's home, which is not far from that of his parents. The spot was released on the day of the shooting. The day of the shooting, this happened, and spurred an angry open letter from Harrigan to Jackson a week later. So it looks like what happened here was a political hit piece, a political targeted ad. Wow, this is making me even madder than I thought it would, because they did an ad. They showed where this man lives. They did not care that it showed where he lives. And apparently it showed part of the neighborhood that is also home to his parents, who were watching his 3-year-old and his 5-year-old daughter. Whew! Wild. Okay, so let's continue on. See if there's any positive good that could come from this, because I'm honestly not feeling it. Oh, the FBI. Good, the FBI are on the case. The FBI have launched an investigation after a gunman shot into a North Carolina home of relatives of a Republican running for Congress, with the bullet landing feet away from where the candidate's children had been sleeping. This we know. Shooting transpired October 18th. Congressional candidate's daughters. Yes, we know this. Harrigan, okay, because of these threats, okay. His opponent, meanwhile, Democrat Jeff Jackson, has been forced to pull an ad filmed outside his opponent's. Okay, we know that too. Okay, so those first bullet points really kind of encapsulate most. Oh my gosh, what a cute little family. The investigation has been underway since, but cops and federal agents have failed to make an arrest. Is anyone surprised by this? The shooting comes amid heightened concerns for the security of politicians ahead of next week's midterms, following Friday's attack, on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's 82-year-old husband at their San Francisco home. This is nothing like that. I don't think this has anything to do with anything like that. That's a really adorable family, by the way. I'm terribly upset that this happened to them. It's incredibly unfair. Wow. The congressional candidate's children were asleep in the bedroom. Okay, here he is. He's a Green Beret. He was an instructor, or I think he owned a firearms company. Harrigan's mother told the Associated Press Thursday that she and her husband James were sitting down in their living room when the bullet entered the residence, shattering their laundry room window in the process. She said the children were asleep in the bedroom above the room where the shooting occurred, but remained asleep despite the commotion. Oh, thank goodness. The couple then quickly called local police, who descended on the residence in full, confirming in a report that the incident did involve a firearm before calling in the FBI. So this came from behind their house, which is, wow. Wow. According to Maria, the kids have since been relocated out of state out of an abundance of caution after the shooting. Yep. With her Army veteran son now urging them to leave town as well. This shouldn't be an issue. This shouldn't be happening. If you're running for office, your family should not be forced to flee the district where you're running because you have political aspirations. Okay. Anyway, it's just disconcerting, especially with the children there. Absolutely, 100%. They're not with their parents. That's very sad too. So now his little girls are gone. So his whole family is split up so that he can do this. I honestly, if I were him, this would make me so furious. I would double the heck down. Like, this would not dissuade me. We'll put it that way, for sure. I would make it a point of winning. Okay, here's a letter that he wrote. Dear Jeff, I write to express my firm and sincere disappointment in you, this race, and what it has devolved into. No kidding. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to run for Congress in the new and open 14th District is that you are the opponent. Although we have significantly different policy perspectives that lead this country forward in different directions, what I admired and respected was that you campaigned honorably, positively, and honest and decent were your committed watchwords. I genuinely believe that you felt the same calling I had, to show America how a decent, honest, and honorable campaign could be exemplified in a society that has replaced political discourse with discord. This is something that we desperately need in America. He's entirely correct. Let's continue. But that honest and decent campaign is not what we have, and it's because of your actions. The week after I won the primary, you immediately handed an opposition research packet to the Charlotte Observer and asked them to write a demonstrably false hit piece on my character and my businesses, asserting that I profit from the deaths of children. That followed with negative ads on social media platforms to targeted audiences for the duration of the summer. As you well know, if negative ads aren't fought with fire, they work. You left us no choice but to respond, and we did respond, but not with personal attacks. Instead, we attacked your record and held you accountable where your words and actions have differed, like teacher pay raises and crime prevention legislation. That's how this used to be. That's how this kind of battle used to be fought when I was even doing phone banking in like 2011, 2010, way back when. Since early October, you continue to pursue what you know to be a meritless complaint against my residents in Mecklenburg County for political spectacle, and you stood idly by while the Mecklenburg Democratic Party sent multiple mailers asserting patently false statements about my positions on abortion. On September 28th, you and your team shot a television ad outside one of my homes in Hickory, North Carolina. Aside from the plainly false information in the ad, you crossed a red line, but not before showing your true character to the people of the 14th District. This letter is incredible campaign material. Purely politically speaking, what he's saying is painting himself to be what he appears to be, just a normal guy trying to run to make good policies for the people in his district. And he is showing his opponent for exactly what he has proven himself to be. Good on him. I'm so glad he wrote this. Although this was even before, somebody tried to shoot his freaking family. The ad went too far because targeting family domiciles crossed the line. Family is stretched thin on campaigns, and you violated my family's security. I have already received a credible death threat. I wear a low-profile, bulletproof vest to every single major public event. As I travel, wherever my family is located, they are significantly less safe with me in this race. And they are even less safe now that you've shown one of my homes to the world. And unlike my ad about inflation and endless government spending that you have flagrantly mischaracterized by falsely accusing I called you a sponsor of domestic terrorism, I would never do that to another veteran. This ad of yours was shot and executed at your donor's expense solely for your personal enjoyment. I know this because I know psychological operators. Remember, in the Special Forces, it was my job to employ you. Interesting and telling. There are many questions that I have about you, your taxes, former home, current home, and your personal life, but I'm never going to film an ad in front of your home violating the sanctity and security of your family, putting their lives at risk. It just does not seem like the honest and decent thing to do. Quite frankly, it would be so dishonest and indecent that the thought has never crossed my mind. Whose mind would this cross? Who would do this? even if the shooting hadn't occurred, I cannot imagine putting someone's family home in the limelight. I can't imagine putting that in someone's crosshairs. That's insanity. Anyway, I'm sorry that it crossed yours. I challenge you to a debate at your earliest convenience so we can talk about the economy, inflation, crime, education, abortion, gun control, energy policy, national security, immigration, and whatever else you would like to talk about with the honor and decency befitting the office that one of us is about to hold. Regards, Pat Harrigan. This letter is great, a good response to the ad, but I'm really curious if this attack on literally his family's dwelling place is going to cause him to back down. I really hope it doesn't. I really, really hope it doesn't. In fact, once I'm done with this, I'm probably going to look him up, and then I'm probably going to tweet out some kind of endorsement of him once I figure out what he's standing for, and talk about what happened to his family. That's so crazy. Okay, so this is a week after the shooting, without revealing it had taken place. An impassioned open letter addressed to his opponent on October 25th. So it was a week after the incident in which the father of two wrote that it was targeting family domiciles crosses a line. While not revealing that the shooting had transpired, he did write that he'd received a, quote, credible death threat. I also think that he did the right thing by not giving this attempt on his family's home attention. This is crazy to me. Like, this is actually mind-boggling. And I feel like if I were on Timcast IRL tonight, this is exactly what we'd be talking about, unless they talked about it last night. I'm not sure if they did. This is a big deal. And it looks like, as I said earlier, it just looks like normal people are falling for the trap of taking up arms against their neighbors. The other thing to keep in mind is that even though we consider politicians to be oppositional, even if you are in a position of opposition with someone else, it is never okay to take this kind of step. It is never good to allow yourself to engage in this kind of anger. So the other day we were talking about forgiveness. We were talking a little bit about pandemic amnesty. And what I came away from that with was the idea that you don't forgive people for their own good. You forgive people for yourself, okay? And this is something that's taught in the Christian faith, something that's really heavily harped on. It's very, very important that you keep in mind that when you give someone the benefit of forgiveness, it's for your own well-being, okay? This is why we forgive people. It's not to make them feel bad. It doesn't necessarily change their behavior, but it is for our own peace of mind. Yes, for your own heart, says Deborah, 100%. This is why we forgive. And this is... I know that this midterm is incredibly fraught. This kind of violence is not helping anything. I just want every single one of you guys to know that you all have much more character than to fall for something like this. First of all, this kind of attack ad. And second of all, this actual kind of attack. This is the kind of stuff. Forget about the politics for a minute. I'm talking purely about the character of the person who committed this act, which the FBI still has not figured out who it was. I think that it is a reflection on the person who is doing it themselves. So this was exactly the same with the shooter in the Steve Scalise incident. This is the same for Rand Paul's neighbor, if you guys recall that attack. And these are some of the instances that we need to keep in mind as we move forward, because the level of violence did not solve any problems. It did not take anyone out of commission. Sure, it put Rand Paul in surgery for a few days, I think. It took Scalise out for a little while too, but he's back to it. Rand Paul is back to it. These people are going to carry on because they're not cowards, first of all, and because I think that it's just frustrating to see. And it does seem, I want to make sure, because I'm trying to check all of our blind spots as we go along. I want to make sure that no right-wing person is doing this. And this is part of the reason that I haven't fully addressed the Paul Pelosi attack, is because I don't believe that the former nudist, drug-doing, hemp-weaving, BLM sign-toting homeless guy was a Republican. I don't believe it at all. And just too many factors are changing in that instance. I hope that one day I can break it all down for you. Right now it kind of feels like a mystery to me, like an actual mystery novel with no idea what's going to happen. But anyway, I digress. I want to leave you all with the note that yes, violence is peaking. This is very scary stuff. It's a great idea to be prepared. It's good to be armed. I don't want this to dissuade anyone from being ready to take up the responsibility of political movement and trying to make a difference in their community. Even though this is scary, I think we are hitting hard times. I think this is kind of what it will look like. I don't feel positive about it, and I wish I could leave you all on a brighter note. I was just going to open this evening's talk saying how optimistic today felt, because it really did. And then I came across this story, and Biden was talking about violence, and I was just like, you know what, it's wild and crazy out there. So I will leave you with this. It is Friday night. I really hope that all of you guys can go out there and enjoy things. Andy and I are going to do a live stream tomorrow morning at 10. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see here what you guys are saying. No weird, gross comments. We are not at home to that kind of thing here. Behave yourselves. All right, what have I got here? Oh my gosh, I have a Mac that's really hard to use. Okay. Hey, Lids. Oh, please. I remember the days when the right were extreme and telling people what W did with the Patriot Act was the right thing. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys recall, the Patriot Act was put into place by George W. Bush, who was in fact a Republican. It's not helping us now. I think that was pretty far back in my political memory. 2001, I was only 10 years old. Wow, I was only 10. Yeah, so I remember the Patriot Act, and I was like, I just remember thinking, oh, it sounds interesting. It sounds like a good thing. That would be nice. And I don't like the idea of, I don't like the idea of not being patriotic, especially after, literal terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers or whatever. But I think that now I'm wondering if this is going to be monetized, because I know that they don't even want you to talk about 9/11. I guess we'll see. We're going to see what happens. We're playing it by ear. No worries. But yeah, now they're using the Patriot Act to take leaps and bounds of control that we all kind of expected moving forward. Consider this a super chat just given for free. Thank you. You can send Lids a super mine. Thank you, Andy. Yes, you can. That's why I pinned that one at the top. Go check it out, mines.com. Halo Lids. Halo Lids. Hello, Lids. Share this video. Be the notification chat. Yes. Great advice. Thank you. Yes, the Patriot Act was so bad. I remember those days. We don't want to return to that either. We are already there. I'm here to chew bubblegum and support Sour Patch, and I'm out of bubblegum. Thank you very much for supporting me this evening. Smush the like, John. Okay, Andy loves to use the term John, which doesn't really make sense to me because I'm not from Philly, and I'm not even sure why he uses it because he's not from Philly either. A convention of states need to abolish recognition of the NDAA, HSA, etc., and reaffirm the constitutional republic by a non-vote majority. Those were a lot of words. I'm not familiar with most of them. I'm going to have to look them up. Thank you. I agree with you, Lydia. I care about abortion, but I'm voting about the economy. Yeah, everyone has to buy stuff. Not everybody has to have an abortion. Somebody says, do dip. Yeah, dip's the bomb. Dip and dot. Dip and dot. Typical cat. Yeah, he just does his own thing. It's all good. Lids hates giving affection and attention. So that's not true at all. The problem with Dip is that he wants to do it on his terms, which turns into a little bit of a problem when you're literally trying to do anything else. No goods. No good. Hello, Lids. Yeah, Al Gore versus Bush in 2000. Yeah, hanging chads. Yeah. Hello, I'm not the real Tim. I am not the real Tim. Okay, thank you, Tim Castyrell. Don't you impersonate Tim. Wait, there are also pregnant chads. Pregnant chads? What? That's crazy. I gotta look that up. Heart emoji for Dip. Cat emoji. Good stuff. There's been a question about who wins for 2 decades. Yeah. I'm in Connecticut taking care of an elderly family member, and it is all becoming the northern boroughs of the city, and they're forcing economic inflation because of supply and demand in New York City pricing norms. I'm sorry to hear that. Bender's big score proved that Al Gore was meant to win until Bender went back in time and made the balance explode. It's Futurama's fault. Yeah, lots of things are Futurama's fault. I'm going to blame him for that. All right, not that North Central Connecticut is much better. LOL, 69 people are watching. Nice, nice. $100, with that I can buy 1 gallon of gas. Yeah, exactly. Hit like, yes, hit the like button, share it. All that good stuff. Enjoy your Friday evening with mate. Dip the dip. Dip, 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 dip. We love Dip. He ran out. Oh, boo. Too bad. Oh, well. When are you going to perform some cat yodeling? Never. Not on camera, anyway. I do that with him. I can call him. Sometimes I can call him, sometimes I can't. I use this cat sound. It's a lady cat, and he's a boy cat, so he's all over that, even though he's, neutered. That's why Democrats are done, and the red asteroid will smash into the earth. Something like that. Wasn't this after the brief was leaked? That's correct. The Kavanaugh thing was after the brief was leaked. Hope you have guests some days. Lydia and Seamus, Liz and Ian. Yeah, that would be super fun. I'm working up to that. That's just one of many things that I'm going to bring together for sure. As you can see, the studio is kind of getting there a little bit at a time. Turning this into our office. Andy works here during the day, and I work here for a short time in the evening. Thank you all for joining me. I voted today in a blue city. Folks in line complaining about student loan forgiveness. Oh boy. Interesting. There was a Republican in California that got murdered by a crazy leftist. I think that was during the Summer of Love. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. I think that was that guy Aaron over in, I thought it was in Portland. You could be right. Could have been in California. I voted in Texas today. Long line. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that horrifying Beto O'Rourke video with that Hispanic lady. It was awful. It was the worst thing in the world. Ben Shapiro, I think he said permission to, he said pass a law to fire every political actor who does a TikTok dance into the sun. And I could not agree more. And he kept watching it yesterday and it was driving me crazy. It's so bad. It's so bad. So bad. So they doxed his house in the ad. Oh, my sister died in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm very sorry, Keenan. That's tough. And a lot of sympathy for that. So sorry for your loss. Lost member in the last few years. Always cherish memories. 100%. Be fine here with friends here. Yeah, indeed. Indeed you are. Such a good place to be for sure. Yeah, this is the first I'm hearing about this. I just heard about this yesterday. This happened in the middle of October. And we're just now hearing about it in the beginning of November. Hickory is also the intersection of two major intersections. Interstates really easily for anyone to get there. A frontier city, but also mountain town. What they say sounds true. That is very interesting. It's going to be an interesting case. I know Lydia is on top of it. I am indeed. I will be pursuing this because this is no joke. He was an Afghan vet. I actually don't know when Harrigan was overseas. I didn't read that in the article. You guys should look him up. His name is Pat Harrigan. 2 R's. Harrigan. Take a closer look at Colorado Springs. Has lots of shooters, crimes, see easy targets. Looks like a stalemate, Cold War with action. Yeah, so fun fact about me. I actually lived and worked in Colorado Springs for the first 27-ish years of my life. I actually worked at a rehab facility that was right behind that Planned Parenthood that had that terrible shooting. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was shockingly traumatic for me. Even though I worked at night, I remember how upset everything was. It was crazy. We had police, we had firefighters, we had to go over to the DMV or the VA across the way and wait for them to come pick us up in a city bus. Total insanity. And I didn't realize how it was affecting me until I was just like started crying in the shower one day because it was like it was horrible. Like I worked with a coworker who was asked to speak at the funeral of the officer who died there. It was just so deeply upsetting. I think part of the issue with Colorado Springs is that it is a military town. And as we all know, our military veterans are not given the kind of mental health care that they need. It's a very serious issue, and I wish that we would look more closely into that. We really do our veterans a disservice, by all means. And it's just that's another issue that I feel like the U.S. is really failing on. But again, I think that that's a problem that also needs to be left mostly to the states. Each state should really pick up a lot of the slack on that for sure. Housing trouble for doxing. I don't know if he is in trouble for doxing. I don't know if he specifically said, this is where I am. I'm right outside my opponent's home. But it seems like that was definitely the implication when he was saying, he lives in this super fancy neighborhood. Look at all this jazz. This is awesome stuff or whatever. Like he's such a loser because he made all his money off, poor children. Terrible. Anyway, grieving is never for the deceased. It's always for the survivors. What you do affects the world around you. So wise for one so young. Indeed, indeed. Very true. Yeah, I really like this back and forth in my chat. I appreciate that. Oh, go away, Camera Hub. I don't know why I need that. OMG, I caught Lids live. Woo, yeah. This is 2015 shooting in Boulder. Yeah, we've had a few. We had Columbine. We had the shooting in, was that the same year? that the shooting happened at that Planned Parenthood. I don't remember now. Oh, I've officially gone long. Sorry, guys. I appreciate all your attention and time. Let me go. You know what? Before I go, I'm going to go look at minds.com, see if anybody has any super minds for me. And I can answer those here. Do we have... Oh, you know what? I'm not even sure how to look at super minds. Son of a gun. It wants me to log in. No, I don't have time for this nonsense. Why always wanting me to sign in? Let me see here. I don't think that I have any super minds. It doesn't look like it. Somebody says Sourcast. I love that. Let's see here. Minds.com. Sorry to make you guys wait. So Minds is created by our good pal Bill Ottman, and Ian helped fund this, I believe, which is super awesome. And I love how open source it is. I think that's super cool. Do we have any inbound super minds? We don't. Okay, so you guys are more than welcome to ask me your super minds if you're watching this after the fact. I know this one's kind of long. Thank you all for sticking with me. Thank you for joining in the chat. Let's see what else I got. I know I'm more of a fountain pen guy, but I have some pretty good memories of fidgeting with and pulling out the cartridge from this model of pen. This pen is the cheapest pen on the market, and I bought a bunch of them because I love them. This pen is my co-host, okay? So I actually asked somebody on Twitter to Photoshop me with it, and they put it behind my ear. So now I feel like this is something I need to do. My only problem is that my ears don't really stick out properly, and my glasses kind of interfere. So I might start using that profile picture with me with my pen behind my ear. Best thing about Garden of the Gods, best thing about Colorado Springs is Garden of the Gods. I kind of agree, for sure. Who needs password protection anyway? So dumb. Yes, thank you, InfoSec husband. I agree. Thank you. Pat Harrigan candidate website says he was USMA went over to Afghanistan, then back to Green Beret School, then back to Afghanistan. Wow. Goodness gracious. Glasses interfere with a lot. Yes, they do. I'm constantly poking Andy in the eye with them. Minds is open source and uses open protocols with a decentralized crypto social network. A bunch of nerd language. It's pretty sweet, but it needs more people. Yes! If you guys aren't over at minds.com, I strongly encourage you to check it out. It's a load of fun. There's fun stuff going on over there. You can supermind whoever you want. It's great. Bill Ottman is, in fact, a super Chad. Thank you, Andy. On that positive note, I think I'm going to wrap it here. Thank you all for joining me and my co-host, my special pen and special guest, Dippin' Dot. Sergeant Dr. Commander Dippin' Dot. That's his full title. He's very smart. You wouldn't know it by talking to him or being around him. He knows exactly what he's talking about all the time. All right, you guys, we will see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I'm super stoked. And then on Sunday, we are going to church. I'm excited about that too. I will let you know how that goes on Monday. But until then,